Fog settled over Seattle, draping Green Lake in a gray, muted glow. The water lay still, broken only by the whisper of wind through oak branches, carrying the damp scent of earth and the faint lapping of waves. At the hospital entrance, a 9-year-old homeless boy named Malik Rivers sat against a stone pillar, sketching legs in motion inside a worn notebook. Just then, Daniel Mercer, a wealthy but exhausted CEO, stepped through the sliding doors. In his arms was his daughter Aria, her body limp after a devastating accident. Daniel froze when Malik whispered, "I can help her walk again." If Malik failed, the fragile hope holding Daniel together would shatter, leaving him drowning in guilt and the Green Lake community without its dream of a place where healing could be free. But how could a boy from the streets awaken a body that had forgotten movement? What could shift Daniel from doubt to trust, and who was already circling, eager to seize control of the miracle? The deepest wounds are often healed not by power, but by patience of the heart, where genuine kindness stands firm against ambition. Stay with us to witness this journey. That Seattle morning cut straight to the bone. Every breath from passers-by turned into thin white clouds, vanishing in the damp air like whispers swallowed whole. In front of Northwest Children's Center, people hurried in and out, clutching hot coffee cups as if holding on to the last bit of warmth against the biting wind. No one spared a glance at the boy curled up on a piece of cardboard by the sliding doors. His name was Malik Rivers. He was 9. His coat hung loose and faded, sleeves rolled several times so they wouldn't drag. A wool cap covered his ears, and his ruined shoes were held together with strips of tape, looking like wounds that had never healed. In his hands was a battered sketchbook, pages filled with careful pencil drawings, legs in motion, running, leaping, stretching as if ready to fly. Malik didn't hold out his hand for money. He just sat there, sketching and watching the world with dark, steady eyes that seemed to read the secrets people tried to hide. Across the street, a blue Tesla Model X pulled up against the red no parking curb, its silent hum a whisper of wealth. Behind the wheel sat Daniel Mercer, frozen in place. The glow from the dashboard lit his hollow face, eyes ringed with shadows from months without rest. He was the CEO of a powerful tech empire. But right then, he was only a father, broken, drained, haunted. In the back seat, 6-year-old Aria lay curled under a soft pink blanket. Her brown curls framed a face still full of innocence, her wide eyes once alive with curiosity. But her thin legs lay silent, unmoving, as if they had forgotten how to respond since the accident. That single moment had stolen her childhood and replaced it with endless days under sterile hospital lights, the steady beep of monitors, a cruel reminder of what was lost. Daniel opened the door and hurried around to lift his daughter. He held her close, moving quickly toward the entrance, eyes down, as if afraid of pitying stares. He cradled Aria tighter, as if she were fragile glass about to break, every heavy step carrying the weight of guilt and despair. But Malik saw it all. He saw the way Daniel clung to his daughter like a broken dream, and how Aria's gaze clung to the gray sky above, refusing to meet the cold building before them. And then, as they passed, Malik stood. His voice rose, quiet but sharp enough to cut through the wind and the squeak of the sliding doors. "Sir, I can help Aria walk again." Daniel stopped cold, frozen in place. His head whipped around, brows knit tight, eyes flashing with shock, anger, and disbelief. His heart pounded like an invisible blade had struck him. "What did you just say?" Malik hugged the sketchbook to his chest, his voice steady, almost unnervingly calm. "I said, I can help her walk." Daniel's grip on Aria tightened. His whole body went rigid, strung like a wire about to snap. He glared at the boy, suspicion and rage burning inside him. "Don't, kid, don't joke about something like that." "I'm not joking." Malik's tone was low, firm, like an oath. He didn't smile. He didn't beg. His steady eyes unsettled Daniel, making him wonder, who is this boy? Daniel looked at the torn shoes, at the child barely older than his nephew, then turned and pushed forward. But the words clung to him like a shadow. Not because of what they claimed, but because of how they were spoken, not as a promise, not as a plea, as if they had been carved into truth long ago. All morning in the sterile exam room, as doctors and specialists repeated their familiar lines, "It'll take time. Don't expect too much. Miracles don't happen overnight." Daniel kept hearing the boy's voice echoing inside him. "I can help Aria walk. It played on loop, awakening something he had buried for months, a dangerous, fragile thing called hope. By early afternoon, Daniel carried Arya back out. The sun was fading, the chill still seeping through his coat. And there was Malik, still on that same piece of cardboard, sketchbook tucked under his arm, those dark eyes fixed on him as if expecting their return. Daniel stopped, uneasy. "Why'd you say that? You think this is funny?" Malik shook his head. His voice was calm. "I don't need to know who she is to help her." Daniel settled Arya into the back seat. His voice grew sharp, as if trying to mask the fear rising within him. "What do you know about what we've been through? You're just a homeless kid." Malik lowered his eyes, his thin fingers brushing the edge of the sketchbook like it carried an old memory. "My mom used to help people walk again. She was a physical therapist. She told me the body never really forgets. You just need someone patient enough to knock on the right door." Daniel let out a bitter laugh, full of doubt and scorn. "And you think watching your mom makes you a doctor? Do you know how many of the best specialists told me my daughter will never recover? I saw her help a man who'd been in a wheelchair for 5 years stand again. No machines, no expensive clinic, just her hands, her patience, and her faith." Malik lifted his head, eyes steady, so unwavering that Daniel fell silent for a moment. A nurse walked by, offering Malik a warm smile. A janitor paused to nod at him with quiet respect. "Did they know this boy?" Daniel folded his arms, keeping his distance. "I'm not giving you money. I'm not asking." "Then what do you want?" Daniel asked, his tone softening, curiosity slipping in. "1 hour. Let me show you." Daniel glanced at Arya. She was staring back, wide-eyed, curious, almost eager. He rubbed his forehead, exhausted, and sighed. "Tomorrow. Green Lake Park. Noon. Don't make me wait, kid." Malik gave a single nod. No more, no less. Daniel started the car and drove off without looking back, but in the rearview mirror, the boy's small figure remained. Still, quiet, like a question mark planted in the cold street. That evening, when Arya suddenly asked in her soft voice, "Daddy, does he believe I can walk?" Daniel froze. His heart skipped. He looked at his daughter, saw her pressing 2 fingers on the seat, walking them in tiny steps, a rare smile spreading across her face. And in that moment, he felt something he had not allowed himself in a long time. It was dangerous, fraught with disappointment, but alive nonetheless. Hope. Tomorrow, in the vast green stretch of the park, a weary father and a homeless boy would meet again. No one dared call it a miracle. Yet neither of them could stop thinking about it. Was this the beginning of a story that could change everything, or just a fleeting illusion in Seattle's cold wind? Only time would tell. By noon the next day, Seattle's sky was draped in heavy silver-gray clouds. A soft light fell over Green Lake, turning its still surface into a vast mirror where tiny ripples seemed to whisper hidden secrets. A cool breeze moved through the old trees, carrying the damp scent of grass and the sweet aroma of baked goods from a cafe by the shore. The air felt both gentle and tense, as if nature itself was holding its breath, waiting. Daniel Mercer parked his blue Tesla Model X near the park. When the engine went silent, the quiet inside the car grew heavier. The soft hum of the heater mixed with Arya's light breathing. She sat in the back seat, her head tilted toward the window, her wide eyes filled with wonder and unease. "Daddy, do you think he'll come?" she whispered, her voice so small it squeezed Daniel's chest. He didn't answer right away. His hands gripped the steering wheel, trying to hide the doubt gnawing at him. He'd long stopped believing in empty promises and polished smiles from doctors who constantly repeated the same line, "It takes time." Yet today, because of the rare smile his daughter gave him the night before, he was here, meeting a homeless boy, holding onto a hope as fragile as a thread in the cold wind. Daniel opened the door and lifted Arya from the back. Her little body was warm in his arms, but her motionless legs carried the cruel memory of that accident months ago. He walked along the stone path, the winter air slipping through his expensive coat, sending a shiver down his spine. Under a wide oak tree near the lake, Malik Rivers was already waiting. The 9-year-old wore his mother's old coat, the only keepsake left from the woman who had taught him everything about healing. His sketchbook was gone. In its place, a folded cloth, a small fabric bag, a bottle of water, a scuffed tennis ball, and a thin wrap holding something round. The tools looked so ordinary that it was hard to believe they could change anything at all. As Daniel and Arya approached, Malik stood and bowed his head in polite acknowledgement. "Hello, sir. Hello, Arya." Arya's face lit up like a flower blooming in winter. "Hi, Malik. You came early." Daniel's eyes scanned the boy up and down. His voice was dry and clipped, carrying a suspicion meant to hide his rising fear. "What did you bring here? Magic tricks? Or just another street kid joke?" Malik didn't flinch at the sharp words. He knelt on the ground, with careful, deliberate movements, as if preparing for the most crucial performance of his life. Opening the cloth bag, he revealed the simple items: a pouch of roasted rice wrapped in a clean cloth, the tennis ball, a cheap jar of lotion, and a pair of white cotton socks. "The rice holds heat," Malik explained, calm and steady. "It softens muscles and improves blood flow. The ball activates deep sensory points. The lotion keeps skin from drying out, and the socks hold the warmth in." Daniel raised an eyebrow, a hint of mockery tugging at his mouth. But inside, his thoughts churned. He had spent thousands on advanced treatments and machines, yet this boy had nothing but these meager tools. "And where'd you learn all this? From street books? Or some wild dream?" Malik lifted his head, his dark eyes steady, meeting Daniel's skeptical stare as if looking straight through him. "From my mom, Lila Rivers. She was a community physical therapist. She helped people who'd lost all hope, gave them the sense they were still whole, still able to stand. She said the body always remembers how to move, how to live. You just need someone patient enough to knock on the right door." Daniel said nothing. The words touched something raw inside him. He gently placed Arya into her wheelchair and pulled the pink blanket back from her pale legs. Malik pressed the warm rice pouch to her thigh. Arya gasped softly, her eyes wide. "It's hot, but it feels nice." Malik nodded, waiting a few minutes before slowly moving her joints. Each motion was gentle, respectful, as though speaking with her body instead of forcing it. "Tell me if anything feels wrong, Arya. I'm here to help, not hurt." At first, her answers were short, hesitant, and almost guarded, but Malik kept her talking, asking about her favorite colors. Pink or blue? Her favorite food? "Do you ever eat ice cream sandwiches?" And the movies she loved? "Do you like Frozen? The Snow Queen?" Soon her answers grew longer, sprinkled with shy laughter drifting across the lake. Arya began to forget her still legs, her eyes shining as she shared. Daniel stood behind them, arms folded across his chest, not as a shield this time, but for warmth against the cold wind. His gaze stayed locked on Malik's hands, torn between suspicion, curiosity, and a flicker of hope he was desperate to crush. He remembered hospital therapy sessions where Arya cried from the pain, where he felt powerless enough to punch the wall. But here, under the trees, everything felt different, simpler, closer, like something extraordinary could grow out of the most ordinary things. After 20 minutes, Malik tapped gently at Arya's ankle. His voice was soft as a breeze. "Do you feel anything? Just say what's true." She frowned in concentration, then spoke slowly, her voice filled with surprise. "I think maybe a little. Like tiny ants crawling." Daniel leaned down, his voice shaking with doubt. "Sweetheart, you've said that before to the doctors. Don't make it up again." For the first time, Malik smiled. It was warm, like sunlight breaking through clouds. But this time, no machines are buzzing, no cold white walls, only trees, grass, and open sky. The body remembers differently when the mind is free. Let her try, sir. Daniel stayed silent, but the corners of his eyes shifted, as if a crack had appeared in his defenses. Malik continued stretching, guiding Arya to try moving her toes. She couldn't yet, but her gaze no longer avoided the effort. It shone with determination and life. When the session ended, Daniel suddenly pulled a large bill from his pocket and held it out awkwardly. "Take this, as thanks. You've earned it." Malik stepped back, shaking his head firmly. His eyes stayed calm. "I don't want money, sir. Seeing Arya smile is enough. That's the gift my mom left me. Healing isn't about money. It's about giving hope." Daniel froze, the bill trembling in his hand. He turned to his daughter. Her bright smile beamed at him, something he had nearly forgotten she once wore so easily. The lake wind picked up, carrying the scent of damp wood and birdsong, as if celebrating the moment, and Daniel realized it had been so long since he'd simply stood still, watching his daughter truly happy. On the drive home, Arya tugged at his sleeve, her voice filled with longing. "Daddy, can we come back tomorrow? I want to try again." Daniel didn't answer right away. His heart pounded hard in his chest. In the rearview mirror, he saw Malik's small figure still sitting on the bench under the oak tree, framed by the dark green lake. as if waiting for an answer that could change everything. Would Daniel dare to trust again? Or would fear drag him back into the dark? The story was only beginning, and Seattle's wind seemed to whisper, "Wait and see." The wind from Green Lake still clung to Arya's brown curls as the blue Tesla turned down the quiet street toward their grand home. Inside the car, silence pressed in. 6-year-old Arya sat motionless, yet her eyes shone brighter than usual, like tiny stars of hope piercing Seattle's gray sky. Her small fingers clutched her father's sleeve, waiting for an answer to the question she'd whispered at the park. "Daddy, are we going back tomorrow?" The fragile sound of her voice seemed to hang in the air, heavy between them. Daniel Mercer didn't answer right away. His hands gripped the wheel, but his mind replayed every moment beneath the oak tree. The gentle warmth of the rice pouch against his daughter's legs, her quiet laughter drifting through the cold wind, and Malik River's calm, unshakable eyes. A boy of only 9, in taped-up shoes and an oversized, faded coat, his healing coat, the last gift from his late mother. Yet that same boy had drawn more smiles from Arya than months of costly therapy and the finest specialists at Northwest Children's Center. Daniel, a wealthy but broken CEO, wondered, was this fate's cruel trick, or a fragile illusion inside his long sorrow? At home, Daniel set Arya on the soft leather sofa, pulled her pink blanket around her, then retreated to the kitchen. The kettle screamed. He poured hot herbal tea, sat at the polished walnut table, and laced his fingers tightly as if holding his last ounce of control. Once, he would have dismissed any unproven therapy, not backed by prestigious degrees and white coats. He had spent thousands chasing that path, only to be met with polite headshakes and reminders to manage expectations. But now, the memory of Arya's eyes as she talked with Malik haunted him. It wasn't blind faith. It was like a door cracking open in the darkness, letting through a thin but living ray of light. The next day, at noon sharp, Daniel drove back to Green Lake. His heart beat faster than usual. No one spoke of it being the second time, but both knew. It was an unspoken promise between two souls searching for healing. Malik was already there under the oak, his old cloth spread neatly, his bag beside him, as if he'd never left. He looked up at Arya and smiled warmly, a smile that erased all barriers of wealth or age. "Ready, Arya?" Malik asked, his voice steady, encouraging. "Yes," Arya answered, and her tone firmer than the day before, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Today's session went beyond simple stretches. Malik pulled a small blue resistance band from his bag and explained carefully how to loop it around her ankle. He asked Daniel to hold the other end. Speaking slowly, each word etched from his mother's lessons, he said, "Press your heel down, gently. Let your brain find its way back to the muscle, like calling an old friend home." Daniel sat across, gripping the band. His chest tightened as he watched his daughter's face, lips pressed together, brows furrowed, no trace of defeat. For the first time since the accident, she didn't look at her legs in fear. She looked at them like a challenge to conquer, a battle she was ready to fight. Though her foot didn't move right away, Malik nodded with calm encouragement. "That's good, Arya. The feeling comes little by little, like trying to push through a crowded room. You just need patience to make your way in." Daniel let out a soft chuckle, rare after so many dark months. No doctor had ever explained things in that way, but Arya nodded, as if she had just unlocked a secret of her own. The weeks that followed, it became a rhythm neither could break. On Sundays, when rain didn't pour, Seattle's familiar gift, Daniel drove Arya back to the park. Malik brought simple, clever tools, bottles filled with sand to lift, clean socks to feel friction against the ground, even a folding chair so Daniel could join, turning sessions into reluctant family rituals. People began noticing. A nurse from the cafe nodded to Malik, and an older man walking his dog paused with a smile. None of them knew a quiet miracle was forming out of the simplest things. On the 4th day since that first meeting, Arya arrived with swollen red eyes from crying. Daniel explained in a low, worried voice. She tried at home, and nothing worked. She lost all hope. Malik didn't rush in with empty comfort. Instead, he knelt at her eye level, his voice soft as the lake breeze. "I wanted to give up, too, when my mom was sick, and I couldn't help her. But if we stop, the part of us that wants to keep living stops, too." Arya looked up, her wet eyes glimmering. "I'm scared. What if I never walk again?" Malik met her gaze, his tone firm. "I'm scared too. But fear doesn't mean we quit. It only means we're standing before something big, and we have to keep going." The air thickened. The lake wind seemed to pause. Behind them, Daniel stood frozen, his heart pounding like a drum. Malik gently placed his hand on Arya's ankle. Try once more, but this time no words, just you and your breath. Arya closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, her small body tense with effort. Malik guided her slowly, and then her right foot slid forward just a fraction. It was shaky, halting, but real. Daniel dropped to his knees, eyes wide in disbelief. Sweetheart, you just did it. Arya's lips parted, then curved into a smile, half shock, half relief, spreading across her face like sunlight breaking through clouds. Malik didn't cheer. He simply nodded, steady and calm, as though confirming a truth he already knew. The body remembers. You just have to wait for it to speak again. Daniel leaned back, his gaze locked on his daughter, overcome by a feeling he hadn't known in months. For the first time, he didn't feel alone on this impossible road to healing. As the session ended, Daniel hesitated, then asked softly, Where do you go after the park, son? Malik shrugged. Here and there. I'm used to it. Daniel paused, then spoke slowly, weighing each word. If you'd like, there's a spare room at my place. You'd have a warm breakfast, and you could keep helping Arya. Malik's eyes widened. Sir, are you sure? I'm just a street kid. For the first time, Daniel smiled without pretense. After what you've done for Arya, if the neighbors complain, they can take it up with me. This isn't charity. This is family. Malik gave a small smile, but didn't answer right away. His eyes shimmered with hesitation, mixed with gratitude. It was a chance that could change his life, yet not an easy choice for a boy who'd grown used to solitude. The next morning, when Daniel opened the front door, Malik was there. A worn backpack hung from one shoulder, a thin blanket clutched in his arms. Behind him, the Seattle sky lay wrapped in fog, as if hiding secrets waiting to be revealed. Their eyes met. No words were needed. Both knew. From this moment, it wasn't just Arya who was healing. Daniel, Malik, and the house itself were stepping into a new journey, where hope was no longer a dream, but a reality unfolding one day at a time. Would the miracle last, or would greater trials await? Only time would tell. That morning, a veil of mist hung over Daniel Mercer's quiet street, turning it into a dreamlike painting beneath Seattle's sharp chill. When he opened the heavy wooden door, Malik Rivers was already there, his worn backpack slung over one thin shoulder, arms clutching a faded blanket. The 9-year-old's eyes carried both hesitation and resolve, as if he had spent the whole night convincing himself to step into a life he had never imagined. Daniel leaned against the doorframe, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, fragrant curls of heat rising into the damp air. He smiled faintly, his voice soft but edged with gratitude. Right on time, kid. Come in. Don't stand out in the cold. From the hallway came the gentle squeak of wheels, a quiet overture to change. Arya appeared, her wide eyes sparkling with delight when she saw Malik. Malik, you're here, she cried, her little hands reaching out, her smile bright as morning sun breaking through fog. Daniel stepped aside. Malik hesitated on the threshold, took a deep breath as though crossing an invisible barrier, then set his backpack on the thick rug and entered the warmth. The Mercer home was no mansion, but every corner was neat and welcoming, once heavy with silence after Daniel's wife had passed, now filling with new life. Daniel led Malik upstairs, opening the door to a long, unused room. Gentle daylight streamed through clear glass, falling across a clean bed with white sheets, a polished walnut desk, and empty shelves waiting for books. From now on, this is your room. Whatever you need, books, toys, anything. You just ask, Daniel said, his tone warm, fatherly. Malik clutched the strap of his backpack, eyes shining with emotions he could hardly name. How long had it been since he saw a room meant only for him, not cardboard on a sidewalk or a park bench in the cold? Thank you, sir, he whispered, his voice hoarse, close to breaking, though he held it in and only nodded. Daniel answered with a nod of his own, and quietly left him there. From the stairs, Arya's giggles floated up, announcing a morning unlike the bleak ones before, a morning where hope slipped into every corner. In the days that followed, life inside the Mercer home shifted, unspoken but undeniable. Malik rose before dawn, spreading his old cloth in the living room, and prepared his small set of tools, the heated rice pouch, the scuffed tennis ball, and the blue resistance band. By the time Arya wheeled out, hair still fragrant from children's shampoo, eyes sleepy but eager, everything was ready. Light session this morning, Malik said, calm as a professional. Yet he guided her through every move. slow stretches, pressing her heels to the floor, rolling the tennis ball to spark nerves awake. Daniel hovered nearby, first as a skeptical observer, then joining in, holding the band steady, counting aloud. 1, 2, 3, with laughter spilling out when Malik corrected him. Not so hard, sir. The body has to remember, not be forced. The mornings filled with a strange, lively energy. The soft thump of the ball across the wood floor, Arya's giggles when her heel touched the ground, for the first time in months. Daniel's steady counting blended with the rich scent of coffee. Together they made a family symphony that Daniel never thought he would hear again. On Sundays, they still went to Green Lake, though now Daniel brought folding chairs, an extra blanket, sometimes even snacks for Malik, grilled cheese sandwiches and fresh fruit, quiet tokens of thanks. People began to notice, a nurse at the cafe nodding and greeting, an older man with his dog smiling at the sight of them. They had no idea a quiet miracle was unfolding on that patch of grass. One afternoon, while Arya rested between exercises, breath quick but face glowing, a woman walking her dog stopped. She recognized Arya, the girl she had once seen in the hospital, silent and withdrawn. Now she was laughing, moving, alive under Malik's guidance. The woman didn't interrupt. She simply smiled warmly and walked on, but inside her, a seed of hope took root. That evening, Daniel washed dishes under the bright kitchen light. At the table, Malik bent over his battered sketchbook, but the pages were no longer filled with childish figures running and leaping. Instead, they showed careful pencil diagrams, stretches, tennis ball points, resistance band positions, each drawn with precision. "What are you working on, Malik?" Daniel asked, curiosity and admiration in his tone. "Just writing it all down," the boy replied with a small smile. "So later. If I'm not here, Arya can still follow along." Daniel turned back to the sink, silent for a long moment, but something profound stirred inside him. This child owed his family nothing, yet had chosen to stay, healing not just Arya's body, but all their hearts. One bright Saturday, as they prepared for the park, Malik announced, "I want to try a new exercise for Arya today." Under the oak at Green Lake, he spread the cloth, placed Arya at the center, and pulled a soft strap from his bag. "Today you'll try lifting both knees at once. Your dad will have your back. You control the rest." Daniel frowned with worry. "You sure? Don't push her." Malik nodded firmly. "She's ready." Arya bit her lip, focused. With gentle support from her father and Malik, her small knees lifted, slow, trembling, but rising inches from the ground. "You did that yourself! You did it!" Daniel shouted, his voice breaking with emotion. Arya laughed out loud, breathless but radiant. "I did it, Daddy!" Malik only smiled calmly. "See? The body always remembers. Patience and practice make it speak again." Daniel stared at him for a long moment, gratitude flooding his chest. "You're something special, Malik, like a miracle walking into our lives." As they packed up, a young couple approached with their little boy, who was on crutches. Their faces carried both fear and hope. The father's voice shook. "We heard about the boy helping the Mercer girl. Could you help our son too?" Malik glanced at Arya, then at Daniel. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, they all understood. The story no longer belonged to just one family. A door had opened, and Malik's quiet miracle was beginning to spread, promising to change many more lives. Would the community embrace it, or would greater challenges come? The journey was only beginning. The breeze off Green Lake rustled the oak leaves above, carrying a crisp chill mixed with the scent of fresh grass and clear water, as if whispering secrets about to be revealed. Malik Rivers stood quietly before the young couple and their son, who was on crutches. His heart pounded, but his face remained calm as always. The boy, about 8 years old, was thin, with short hair that fell into his eyes. His dark gaze held both fear and hope, like someone standing on the edge of a miracle that could vanish at any second. His worn crutches bore rubber tips rubbed flat from months of use. He clung to his mother's hand, desperate for warmth and safety. Malik glanced at Arya Mercer, who gave a tiny nod from her wheelchair, her eyes saying, "Do it, Malik. I believe in you." Daniel Mercer stood nearby, watching closely. His chest tightened as he wondered, could this homeless boy handle the pressure suddenly thrust upon him? "What's your name?" Malik asked, his voice warm and steady, inviting the child into a safe world. "Evan," the boy whispered, his voice trembling as he gripped the crutches tighter. Malik knelt to meet Evan's eyes, his movement gentle, like an older brother sharing a secret. "I won't promise things will happen right away, But if you're willing to try, we'll do it together, one step at a time. Evan looked at his parents. Their faces showed both fear and fragile hope. He gave a slight nod, uncertain but determined. Malik smiled, spread his old cloth, the healing charm from his mother, over the grass and motioned for Evan to sit. Arya rolled closer, watching intently, her eyes glowing as though witnessing a new chapter in her miracle. The first session with their newcomer began quietly, yet it carried power. Malik used the same simple tools from his small bag. The warm rice pouch releasing gentle heat, the scuffed tennis ball, the flexible blue resistance band. He asked Daniel to hold one end of the band while he worked carefully at Evan's ankle and knee, his touch cautious, as if handling something priceless and fragile. "How does it feel, Evan?" Malik asked, encouraging. "Cold, then warmer," Evan said in surprise, sensing a strange awakening in his frail legs, like his body was waking from a long sleep. From beside them, Arya smiled widely. "That's exactly what I said to you, Evan. It feels strange at first, but you'll get used to it." Laughter broke out, lightening the air, knitting strangers together into something closer, something shared. Daniel watched, his heart twisting. Malik wasn't only helping people move, they were healing the space itself, turning pain into hope and loneliness into community. Word of the boy who helped Arya stand spread faster than Daniel expected, like a warm fire through Seattle's cold streets. Within a week, 2 more families arrived beneath the oak. A pale young girl recovering from a sudden stroke, her eyes burning with determination. A teenage boy was once crushed in a car accident, fighting to take steps. Malik gave time to each of them, teaching parents how to continue at home, repeating his steady mantra. No forcing, no rushing, just repeat with patience. Oh, the body will remember. That day, Arya did less training herself, but she watched proudly, like Malik's little assistant, learning from her hero. Sundays slowly transformed Green Lake Park into an open-air therapy hall. Folding chairs lined the grass like a small stadium. The cafe by the water sent over hot sandwiches and coffee with notes that read, "For strength to keep fighting." A local minister set up a tarp shelter against Seattle's drizzle. Daniel was no longer just an observer. He scheduled sessions, bought new resistance bands with support from neighborhood hands, becoming part of the miracle himself. Still, Malik never forgot Arya. He always checked her progress first, making sure she never felt his care was being divided. And Arya knew. Every time he returned to her side, she lit up like a child greeting an older brother home from a long, dusty journey. One sunny Sunday morning, as Malik guided Evan through knee lifts, he noticed the boy pressing his foot too hard into the ground, his face flushed with strain. "Slow down, Evan. Don't push too hard," Malik reminded gently, resting a hand on his shoulder. "But I want to walk as fast as Arya," Evan protested, his voice tinged with childish envy. Malik smiled, his eyes steady. "No one's the same and no one's slow. Every small step is a victory, Evan." Arya chimed in, her voice soft but wise beyond her years. "He's right, Evan. If you skip the little steps, you'll miss the joy of winning them." Evan fell quiet, then smiled faintly, his eyes brightening as if he'd found the key he needed. Daniel looked at the 2 children, one just beginning, the other now helping. Realizing Malik had planted something far greater than movement, he was planting resilience, turning pain into shared strength. By month's end, a young reporter from the Seattle Herald appeared, camera around her neck, notebook ready. "Can I write about this?" she asked Daniel, eyes shining. "It's too inspiring not to share." Daniel turned to Malik. "What do you think, son?" Malik looked around, parents chatting, children laughing as bands snapped lightly, determination glowing in their eyes. "If you write, make it about them. You don't need my name." The reporter nodded, capturing the moving feet, the small triumphs measured in inches, the radiant smiles. A week later, the article appeared. It never mentioned Malik by name, only referring to him as the young guide at Green Lake, but it spread like wildfire, touching thousands. Daniel laid the paper on the kitchen table, pride deep in his voice. "You know, even without your name, this whole city knows who you are." Malik only smiled faintly and bent back over his sketchbook, drawing new exercises. His eyes made it clear he didn't need recognition. His worth was written in the smiles he restored. The following Sunday, more than 10 families waited under the oak. The air buzzed like a healing festival. In the front row stood a man in a long coat, watching Malik with sharp, measured eyes. Daniel's breath caught. He knew that face. The most renowned rehabilitation doctor in Seattle, the very man who had once shaken his head at Arya's case. and in that gaze lay something that promised the entire story was about to change. Was this a chance or a threat? Would Malik's miracle be embraced or challenged? The journey had just turned a page. The murmurs beneath the old oak at Green Lake Park slowly faded, like a soundtrack dimming, when a tall man in a dark coat stepped forward. His presence was imposing, cutting through the crowd of parents and children who had gathered. His sharp gaze fixed on Malik Rivers, a 9-year-old boy kneeling beside Evan, patiently adjusting a resistance band around the child's ankle with the focus of a seasoned therapist, as though he'd been doing this his whole life. The lake breeze carried the scent of wet grass and spreading hope, but the air suddenly grew heavier, as if a storm were about to break. Daniel Mercer recognized him instantly. His heart thudded hard. It was Dr. Hugo Stein, the most renowned rehabilitation specialist in Seattle, a man whose appointments were booked months in advance and whose fees soared beyond the reach of most families. He wasn't the kind to stroll through parks, not in the cold wind and open grass, unless something had pulled him here, something worth seeing firsthand. Daniel stepped forward, shaking his hand with a nervous smile. "Dr. Stein, I didn't expect to see you here. You came to observe?" Hugo gave a slight nod, his piercing blue eyes never leaving Malik, studying every detail of the boy's movements. "I read about him in the Seattle Herald. I wanted to see for myself whether this so-called young guide is truly the miracle people claim." His deep voice carried authority, but also genuine curiosity, like a scientist facing an extraordinary phenomenon. Malik stayed focused on Evan, unfazed by the famous doctor's presence. He encouraged gently, his voice warm as spring air. "Good job, Evan. Keep your breathing steady. Don't force it. Let your body find its way home." Evan relaxed his shoulders, pressing his heel into the soft grass. A faint smile spread across his pale face as he felt something stir, like a spark of warmth running from his toes. Malik tapped his shoulder, eyes shining. "There, you see? Every time you feel that, you're one step closer to freedom. You did it." Hugo moved closer, then knelt opposite Malik, his movements as careful as someone handling a rare treasure. "Where did you learn these techniques, son?" "They're precise, straight out of a textbook." Malik looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, but answered calmly, voice low and confident. "From my mother, Lila Rivers. She was a community physical therapist. She helped people who had lost all hope stand again. She told me the body always remembers. You just have to knock with patience." Hugo raised his brows, his voice a mix of doubt and respect. "You've never had formal training? No degree? No certification?" Malik shook his head. "No, sir. However, I've practiced with people and they do improve. That's the best proof I know." Hugo pressed his lips together, nodding slowly, as if storing every word in his sharp mind. A spark lit in his eyes. The birth of an idea. When the session paused, as families caught their breath and shared sandwiches from the cafe, Hugo pulled Daniel aside beneath the oak's shade. His voice was firm, as if it were a declaration. "This child has a gift, Daniel. His sensitivity to muscle response, the way he earns total trust. These are qualities I've only seen in top specialists after years of training. He doesn't just have technique. He has heart." Daniel looked over at Malik, laughing as he shared bread with Arya and Evan. Emotions swelled in him. "That boy has never asked for work or recognition. He only wants to help. That's all." "And that's why I want to help him," Hugo replied, his tone resolute, like he was offering destiny itself. "If the family agrees, I'll train him formally, free of charge. And if he's willing, I'll bring him into my clinic, where he'll have modern equipment, scientific knowledge, and the chance to help hundreds." Daniel was struck silent, his chest caught between joy and fear. Joy at the rare opportunity that could turn a homeless boy into a true specialist. Fear because it might pull Malik away from the small, fragile circle they had built, the warm mornings at home, the Sundays in the park. The session resumed in the gentle afternoon sun, but Daniel's gaze on Malik had changed. It was deeper now, weighted with the gravity of a decision looming over them all. Arya noticed. She wheeled closer to her father, worry in her young voice. "Daddy, what's wrong? Why are you looking at Malik like that?" Daniel sighed, avoiding her eyes. "I'm just thinking about the future, sweetheart, about what's best for everyone." His words lingered like a dark cloud in a blue sky. As families began packing to leave, Hugo walked straight to Malik, his voice warmer than it had been before. I'm Dr. Hugo Stein, a rehabilitation physician. I'd like to invite you to my clinic, to learn, to work alongside me. Not to change who you are, but to give you more tools, machines, knowledge, to help more people. Malik clutched the strap of his worn bag, silent for long moments, his dark eyes flickering with hesitation. If I do that, will I still be able to come here on Sundays? To help everyone here? Hugo smiled, a rare, genuine smile for such a busy man. If that's what you want, I'll make it possible. The choice will always be yours. Daniel stood close, hearing every word. A storm of questions rose inside him. Was it time for Malik to step beyond this safe circle, or would it tear apart the life they'd built? That night, dinner at the Mercer home was quieter than usual. The air felt heavy, like the silence before a storm. Arya stole glances at Malik, who didn't say much, only ate quietly, and smiled when she recounted her progress. Daniel watched them both, his daughter and the boy who had become family, and wondered how one decision could change everything. Later, as Malik sketched careful diagrams of new exercises in his battered notebook, Daniel placed a hand on his thin shoulder. His voice carried a father's warmth. Tomorrow, would you like to visit Dr. Stein's clinic? Just to see, no pressure. Malik looked up, his eyes a mix of curiosity and caution, like someone standing at a life's crossroads. I'll think about it, sir. The next morning, as Daniel drove Arya to school in the blue Tesla, a message lit up on his phone. It was from Malik. I want to see, but you have to promise me one thing. The promise wasn't written yet, but Daniel knew. It would decide whether the boy truly stepped through that new door, a door that could lead to a brilliant future or cost them the most precious bond they had. What was the promise? And would it change everything? The story hung suspended, waiting for the storm to break. That morning in Seattle felt strangely pure, as if the sky had washed away yesterday's gray and left only a thin veil of sunlight slipping through the trees. Golden light spilled across the porch, shimmering like someone had scattered flecks of gold over the red brick floor. Daniel Mercer rechecked his phone, rereading the message Malik Rivers had sent the night before. Each word felt like a quiet challenge. I want to go, but you have to promise me one thing. Daniel had tossed and turned all night, wondering what that promise might be. His heart thudded, sensing a change too significant to name. Was it a condition for Malik to take a step forward, or just fear of a boy who had grown used to drifting? When Daniel returned from dropping Arya at school, he found Malik sitting on the front steps, his old backpack by his side. In his lap lay a worn sketchbook, its corners frayed from years of use. Page by page, it held careful pencil drawings of healing motions, the last legacy from his late mother. Morning sunlight touched the boy's dark face, highlighting eyes deep with thought. Daniel parked, stepped out, and forced a smile to mask his unease. You ready, kid? Let's go. Malik looked up, his gaze serious, far older than his years. His voice was low but steady. I'll go, if you promise. No matter what happens at Dr. Stein's clinic, I still get to train at Green Lake with everyone, every Sunday, no skipping. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew this wasn't just a child's demand. This was Malik asking for protection over the heartbeat of his life. Green Lake, where old scarves had become makeshift therapy tools, and where hope was shared freely with anyone who needed it. I promise, Daniel said firmly, his voice carrying like an oath. Sundays are yours, Malik. Nothing changes that. The boy gave a slight nod, zipped his backpack, and pulled out his tools, a warm pouch of roasted rice and a scuffed tennis ball. Bring in these. If there's a chance, I'll show the doctor how I do it. A faint smile flickered across his face, quick as sunlight breaking through clouds. The clinic of Dr. Hugo Stein was located on the third floor of a sleek glass building downtown. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, turning the white space into something that felt more like a futuristic lab than a doctor's office. Machines gleamed. A faint scent of disinfectant hung in the air. Daniel felt out of place. Malik didn't. His eyes darted around with curiosity, soaking in every detail. Therapy beds lined neatly, resistance bands hanging by size, machines humming softly in the corners like they whispered medical secrets. Dr. Stein emerged from a treatment room, his white coat crisp, his middle-aged face warm and calm. Hello, gentlemen. Malik, where would you like to start? The machines? Or some theory first? Malik didn't answer. Instead, he walked to an empty therapy bed, laid down his pouch of rice and the old tennis ball. His hands moved with quiet confidence as though he were back in the park. I want to try. like I do at Green Lake, but I'll need someone to play the patient." Surprised, Hugo raised his brows and motioned for a young nurse to volunteer. Malik went to work, moving slowly and carefully. He pressed the warm rice bag against a stiff joint, rolled the tennis ball over key points, spoke calmly as he explained, "This helps the blood flow. It helps the muscles remember how to move." His hands were steady. His tone was calm. Not a trace of nerves. The room fell silent, everyone watching. Daniel's lips curved in pride. Among the expensive machines and trained professionals, the boy with taped-up sneakers didn't fade. He shone. When Malik finished, Hugo folded his arms, his expression thoughtful and impressed. "You have a delicate technique, strong intuition, and you put people at ease. That matters. But to go further, you'll need anatomy knowledge, safe methods for difficult cases, and ways to use technology." Malik listened closely, eyes shining. Then he met Hugo's gaze and said firmly, "I'll learn. But I don't want to work only in here. I want to be out there with people who can't afford this place, people who've lost hope." For a moment, Hugo stood still, then his smile softened. He had found a kindred spirit. "Then we'll combine the two. You'll study here, and bring what you learned back to the park." From a distance, Daniel watched, his chest swelling with pride and a flicker of fear. The path ahead of Malik stretched wide, filled with promise and risk, but it might also pull him away. From Sunday mornings at Green Lake, from Aria's laughter from the Mercer home. On the ride back, Malik stayed quiet, staring out at Seattle's afternoon light streaming over the streets. Then his voice broke the silence, hesitant. "Do you think, if I study here, the kids at the park will feel like I abandoned them? I don't want them to think that." Daniel gripped the wheel tighter, his voice steady, reassuring. "Number. Not if you keep showing up on Sundays, and I'll make sure of it. I'll drive you, support you, whatever it takes." Malik turned, the corners of his mouth lifting into a rare, small smile. It lightened the weight in both their hearts. Later that afternoon, they stopped by Green Lake to check supplies and share the news. But what met them stopped both in their tracks. Beneath the old oak tree, not just a few familiar families were waiting. More than 20 strangers had gathered, children on crutches, parents with eyes full of hope. And right in the center sat Aria in her wheelchair, her face glowing, chatting with a new little girl. The moment she spotted them, she waved eagerly, her young voice ringing out with excitement. "Malik, there are new people here to meet you. They heard about you from the article. They want your help." Daniel's heart pounded as he looked at Malik. Was the boy ready for this wave crashing toward him? Or was this only the beginning of an even greater test? The story was surging toward its climax. Malik's gift was about to spread further than either of them had ever dreamed. Aria's voice cut through the chilly Seattle afternoon like a sharp needle, carrying a spark of life into the damp, familiar air of the rainy city. Malik Rivers and Daniel Mercer had just stepped out of their blue Tesla when their feet froze. Beneath the old oak at Green Lake Park, nearly 20 people had gathered in a loose circle. Some leaned on worn wooden crutches, others sat motionless in wheelchairs with eyes full of longing. Parents stood close by, their worried faces lit with faint hope. At the center of it all, 6-year-old Aria Mercer sat in her wheelchair. Her eyes lit up like the morning star the instant she spotted them. A radiant smile spread across her face, chasing away the gray clouds. "Malik, someone new wants to meet you." Her young voice rang out with pure excitement. It didn't sound like a therapy session. It sounded like a festival where miracles were shared freely. Malik moved closer, his 9-year-old steps faltering when his eyes met those of a frail boy around 7. Metal braces gleamed around the boy's legs in the pale light. He stood close to his mother, thick glasses slipping down his nose, too shy to look up for long, as if the world itself was too heavy to face. The young mother's face was hollow from worry. She gripped her son's hand tightly and looked at Malik with desperate eyes. "We heard about you from Evan and Aria," she said, her voice trembling, on the edge of breaking. "My son suffered a spinal injury in a terrible accident. The doctors say the chances of recovery are very low, but we don't want to give up. Can you help him?" Her words fell like a plea from the heart. The air grew heavier. A breeze off the lake carried a chill that sank into the skin. Malik bent down until his eyes met the boy's. His voice was gentle, like a breeze over still water. "I can't promise a miracle right away, but if you're willing, we'll try, step by step, okay?" The boy hesitated, lips pressed tight. Then he gave a slight nod, fragile, yet full of courage. It was as if a long-locked door cracked open, letting in a sliver of hope. Daniel quickly cleared away folding chairs, making space for the group. His chest swelled as he saw the crowd growing larger. Malik laid down the old cloth his mother had once called her healing charm on the soft grass. From his bag, he pulled a pouch of roasted rice still warm from that morning and a scuffed tennis ball. The onlookers fell silent. A few exchanged skeptical glances. A child healing other children? Could that be real? But no one spoke against it. The stories of Malik's work had already spread, carried mouth to mouth like wildfire. Malik placed the warm rice bag on the boy's legs. "Is it too hot?" he asked softly. The boy shook his head. His voice trembled, but his guarded eyes softened. "No. It feels nice." Arya wheeled closer, tilting her head with a gentle smile. "You'll feel your legs get lighter after a few times. Trust me, I was just like you." The mother smiled at Arya through tears, grateful for that small gift of belief in the middle of despair. As Malik guided the boy's toes to wiggle, each movement careful and respectful, Daniel noticed the others inching closer. A middle-aged couple whispered questions about training schedules. A young man recorded a short video with wide eyes. Daniel didn't stop him. He knew these images would spread faster than rumors, fueling the story of the healing boy that had already stirred their community. By sunset, the session ended. With his crutches, the boy stood taller than when he'd arrived. His face glowed with a fragile hope. His mother hugged him tightly, tears streaming as she smiled at Malik and whispered thanks. Malik only nodded quietly. He never boasted about results. For him, healing wasn't about fame. It was about bringing back a smile. In the days that followed, Green Lake was no longer a quiet meeting place for a handful of families. It turned into a phenomenon. Rows of folding chairs lined up like bleachers. Folding tables offered fresh bread, hot coffee, and bottled water, all donated by the nearby Lake and Loaf Cafe. A volunteer pastor from Neighborhood Hands brought a small speaker to guide group sessions, transforming the park into a lively outdoor therapy center. Children laughed as they ran, resistance bands snapped softly, and warm encouragement floated through the air, together forming a symphony of hope across the lake. Malik always began with Arya, checking each movement with the care of an older brother. Then he moved among the groups, adjusting postures, guiding stretches, his calm voice steady. "Relax. Your body will remember." Daniel became the chief assistant, coordinating schedules and explaining basic exercises to newcomers. Pride filled him as he watched the community grow tighter. Arya became the children's spiritual coach, telling how she first felt her foot twitch. Her small voice carried surprising strength. "It's like a slow miracle, but it will come." One late afternoon, as the crowd thinned under the golden light, Dr. Hugo Stein appeared. He stepped into the circle like a long-time witness. He watched in silence as Malik guided 3 children at once, correcting every small detail with astonishing precision, like an artist perfecting his masterpiece. When the session ended, Hugo approached, his deep voice filled with expectation. "Malik, have you thought about my offer? The clinic is waiting for you." Malik glanced at Daniel, then answered firmly, "I'll study, but Sundays will always be here, with everyone." Hugo smiled and nodded. "I promise. We'll make it real." The people nearby caught their words and murmured with excitement. The presence of a doctor as respected as Hugo Stein changed the air, charged with hope for a turning point, but also tinged with fear that everything might never be the same. Daniel drove Malik and Arya home in thoughtful silence, the lake breeze drifting in through the window. In the rearview mirror, he saw Malik staring out the window, sketching in his old notebook. This time it was a complete plan for a group session, with new positions he'd never tried, preparing, it seemed, for a bigger future. As the car pulled up to their house, Daniel's phone buzzed. A strange number flashed with a short, weighty message. "We want to sponsor the entire cost for Malik to run outdoor recovery classes at Green Lake. Contact us soon." Daniel's heart pounded like a drum. This could be the breakthrough that turned Malik's gift into a city-wide movement, or the most significant risk of all, where fame might swallow the simplicity they cherished. Would this offer bring hope or disaster? The story hung suspended, waiting for the next wave to crash. Daniel Mercer's phone kept buzzing faintly in his trembling hand, like a mysterious reminder in the fading Seattle light. On the glowing screen, a short message from an unknown number seemed to burn brighter with every second, each word carved deep into his mind. "We want to sponsor all expenses for Malik to start an outdoor recovery class at Green Lake. Contact us soon." Daniel's heart pounded. He felt the heavy weight of the offer, a golden chance to turn a minor miracle in the park into something much larger. But it might also bring invisible strings, a web of control he wasn't ready to face. In the back seat, Malik Rivers bent over his worn sketchbook, quietly sketching groups training under the familiar oak tree, unaware of the storm brewing. 6-year-old Aria Mercer peeked at the drawing, her eyes glowing with curiosity. "What are you drawing, Malik? It looks just like our park," she chirped. Daniel quickly shut off the phone and shoved it deep into his pocket. He wasn't ready to share that message, not tonight. He didn't want to break the fragile peace between the three of them, a peace that finally felt like family again. That evening, under the soft yellow light of the kitchen, dinner was filled only with small joys. Arya proudly told Malik she had balanced longer today against the training bar. Her legs, once lifeless, were slowly regaining strength. "I did it, Daddy. Just like Malik said, our bodies remember everything," she shouted with a radiant smile. Daniel forced a smile of his own, serving more food, though his mind was haunted by one word: sponsorship. It lingered like a ghost, promising shiny equipment and bigger crowds, or threatening to steal away the simple freedom Green Lake had always held. After dinner, once Arya skipped off to her room with her storybook, Daniel pulled Malik aside into the living room. His voice dropped low with worry. "There's an organization that wants to sponsor a full program at Green Lake. Everything: equipment, chairs, tents, the works." Malik looked up from his sketchbook, eyes flickering between excitement and caution. "Sponsorship means more people, more sessions. But who controls it? I don't want it to become something that isn't ours anymore." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "I don't know yet. We'll need to meet them and hear their plan first. But I'll stand with you." 2 days later, they met at a lakeside cafe. The chill drifted in with the scent of strong coffee and damp air. Across the table sat a man in a dark suit, eyes sharp but voice smooth as honey. He introduced himself as Victor Hale, director of a community fund for health and rehabilitation. Spreading out a detailed plan, he painted an alluring picture: larger training tents with rainproof roofs, brand new equipment gleaming, volunteer teams to assist, and even a calendar of community events featuring banners and special programs. "We believe Green Lake could be a model for other cities," Victor said warmly. "But it needs a leader. Malik, that's you." Malik studied the plan, his small hands resting at the table's edge. His young voice was steady. "If I agree, people can still come for free, right? I don't want anyone paying just to have hope." Victor smiled, polished yet sincere. "Of course, but we'll need consistent branding. Uniforms, logos, and a few required safety standards to keep things professional." Under the table, Daniel tapped Malik's hand gently, a silent reminder. "Don't answer too fast. Don't let promises blur your judgment." On the drive home, Malik stayed quiet, staring out at the lake breeze drifting through the window. At last, he spoke, his voice edged with unease. "They want to help, but they also want their name on everything: logos, uniforms. What do you think? I'm scared Green Lake won't feel like everyone's place anymore. It'll feel like it belongs to a company." Daniel gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Help is good, but if it strips away the soul of the place, the freedom, the sense that anyone can come without strings attached, then it's not worth it. We have to think carefully." From the back seat, Arya chimed in, innocent yet piercing. "If we don't take it, we can still train, but fewer people will know, and fewer kids will get help." The words fell heavy, like an emotional bomb in the car. Silence swallowed them whole. That night, Daniel sat alone in the dark living room, streetlight shadows stretching across his weary face. He thought of the first time he met Malik, huddled outside the automatic doors of Northwest Children's Center, clutching a bag of roasted rice, unshaken eyes filled with courage as he promised to change Arya's life. Back then, there was no grand plan, no $1 million sponsorship. Yet, it had been enough to heal a broken family, sufficient to turn pain into hope. His phone buzzed again, a text from Victor. "We need an answer this week. Many people stand to benefit." Daniel glanced upstairs, where Malik and Arya sat laughing over sketches. He knew the choice wasn't about tents or equipment. It would shape every Sunday at Green Lake, deciding whether Malik's miracle stayed pure or got pulled into the whirlpool of money and recognition. The next morning, Daniel drove them to the park, the air filled with the familiar buzz of excitement. The lake breeze smelled of damp grass after last night's rain. But as they approached the old oak tree, all three froze. A group of strangers stood there, dressed in crisp uniforms bearing the Hale Foundation's gleaming logo. A huge banner had already been raised, showing Malik's smiling face beside the bold words, Green Lake Healing Sundays, sponsored by the Hale Foundation. Malik stopped dead. His dark eyes clouded like a storm rolling in. The decision hadn't been made. They hadn't agreed to anything, yet someone had already moved forward, like a silent challenge, daring them to respond. Was this genuine help, or a ploy to exert control? The wind off Seattle's lake seemed to whisper, "Be careful." The story had reached its dangerous turning point. Malik's miracle was about to face its most significant test yet. The wind off Green Lake swept across the green lawn, carrying a sharp chill and the damp scent of Seattle's air. The newly raised billboard rattled with every gust, as if daring the silence around it. Malik Rivers' face loomed large on the white background, his 9-year-old smile blown up to something almost grotesque. Beneath it, in bold, gaudy letters, it read, Green Lake Healing Sundays, a community project sponsored by the Hale Foundation. The weak afternoon sun cast a glow across the board, transforming it into something foreign, a declaration of ownership planted in a place once filled with hope and freedom. Daniel Mercer stopped cold. His brows tightened with anger and shock, his heartbeat pounding like a drum. Beside him, Malik stood frozen. His small hands gripped the straps of his worn canvas bag until his knuckles turned white, his dark skin drained of color. 6-year-old Aria Mercer glanced from the flashy sign to Malik's face. Her eyes glimmered with worry, sensing the swirl of confusion, anger, and, most of all, betrayal, as if someone had stolen the most precious thing from him. "Malik? What's wrong?" she whispered, her young voice trembling. I never agreed to this," Malik said softly. His voice cracked, tears filling his eyes. But the boy's resolve held. He refused to let them fall. Daniel strode forward, blood running hot, searching for whoever was in charge among the strangers bustling around. A middle-aged woman in a T-shirt with the Hale Foundation logo approached, flashing a broad smile that never touched her carefully distant eyes, like a salesperson eager to pitch her product. "Mr. Mercer," she chimed, "we wanted to surprise the community. Everything's ready. Tents, brand new equipment, all free of charge." "Surprise?" Daniel's voice was low but edged with steel. "You put Malik's face on that board without our consent. This isn't how you treat people with respect." His fists clenched as he fought to hold his anger in check. He glanced at Malik, head bowed, and felt his heart twist. The woman faltered, her smile stiffening. "I thought Mr. Hale already discussed this with you. This is a great opportunity to expand the project." Daniel turned back to Malik, his tone gentler. "What do you want to do, kiddo? The choice is yours." Malik stared at the board for a long moment, then his gaze shifted to the families gathering around the practice area. Parents pointed at the billboard, their faces lit with excitement as they spoke to their children. Malik's eyes caught Evans, the boy on crutches waving from across the lawn, grinning like sunshine. Malik's chest tightened. He didn't want to disappoint them. Yet the sting of betrayal gnawed at him. The session went on, but everything had changed. No longer the simple warmth they once shared. New folding chairs gleamed, shiny equipment filled the space, and Foundation-branded tents stood like props on a stage. Volunteers in uniforms directed families into neat rows, handing out pre-printed lists that drained the joy into something rigid and mechanical. Malik began with Aria, pressing the warm rice bag against her leg, just like always. But when he moved to help another child, a young volunteer stepped in, speaking softly but with authority. "Under the new safety rules, only certified staff can work directly with patients. You can demonstrate from a distance." Malik froze, the silence stretching like forever, then slowly stepped back. His eyes searched for Daniel across the field, filled with helplessness and hurt. Aria squeezed his hand tight. "I don't like this, Malik. This isn't our Green Lake anymore. It feels cold." Her words cut deep. Malik forced a smile, but it twisted with bitterness. Midway through, Victor Hale arrived like a star stepping onto a stage, dressed in a gleaming light suit, smile wide, shaking hands with parents, posing under the billboard as camera flashes erupted like fireworks. Spotting Malik alone in the corner, he walked over, crouching to eye level, his voice honey smooth. "What do you think, Malik? Everything's more professional now, right? More people can be helped. This is the future." Malik met his eyes without flinching. His young voice carried a steady resolve. "But this isn't the same. People aren't free to come as they were. I don't want anyone turned away because they don't fit a list. I do this for smiles, not logos or photos." Victor's laugh was soft, slicing like a thin blade. This is the only way forward. You'll understand when you're older." His words hung in the heavy air, a slow-burning fuse that made Malik feel smaller than ever, yet the fire inside him burned hotter. As the session dragged to a close under its suffocating weight, some longtime families sought Daniel out, whispering anxiously, "We miss how it was before. There are too many rules now." The kids feel tense, afraid to laugh or play. They don't want to break something. Daniel nodded, his heart heavy. He watched Malik packing away his warm rice bag and scuffed tennis ball. The only things left without the Foundation's logo, the last symbols of what they'd once built with simple grace. On the ride home, Malik sat silent in the back seat, staring out at the streetlights through the cold night air drifting in. At last, as they neared their neighborhood, his raspy voice broke the silence. "Uncle, if they don't change, I'll leave Green Lake. I can't let Mom's gift turn into something that doesn't belong to me anymore." Daniel gripped the wheel tighter, heart heavy, no words coming. He knew this wasn't just about one practice. It was about protecting the soul of something born from an old towel, a warm rice bag, and one brave 9-year-old boy. Could they reclaim Green Lake, or was it already slipping away? The next morning, as dawn crept through Seattle's fog, Daniel found an unmarked envelope on his doorstep. Inside was a photo of the Green Lake billboard. Across Malik's name, someone had drawn a heavy black cross with a shaky handwritten note, "Take back what's yours." Daniel's pulse raced. Was this a warning or a call to action? What secret was hiding behind it? Malik's miracle was about to face its most significant storm yet, and the story was far from over. The contract on the kitchen table hit Daniel Mercer like a hammer to the temple. Every word seemed stamped in cold defiance. Under brand owner, the name burned clear. Victor Hale. He had moved faster, seizing Green Lake Healing Sundays as private property before Daniel or Melik Rivers had a chance to protect it. Daniel's pulse pounded. Heat surged like an underground tide. It felt like someone had stolen the very soul of a dream they had built together, ever since the first worn blanket and the humble bag of roasted rice. Malik picked up the paper. His dark eyes stayed calm, still as a lake at dawn, but his 9-year-old hands trembled, gripping the edge as if holding back a storm inside. "Uncle," he said quietly, voice steady as a vow. "If he keeps this name, everything we've done will be tied to the Hale Foundation, whether we want it or not. This place won't belong to us anymore." Silence, stretched. Then Daniel rose, shrugging into his old coat, eyes lit with iron resolve. "Then we'll take it back, Malik, not with arguments or lawsuits, but with proof. Show the whole community who the true Green Lake belongs to, with our hearts and our actions." The following Sunday, Seattle lay under a thick mist, the air sharp with the scent of wet grass and the chill breath of the lake. While the Hale Foundation set up a flashy pavilion, rows of chairs and banners, Daniel and Malik arrived early. Their steps were firm across the dew-soaked lawn. They spread the same faded blanket, Malik's mother's healing cloth, beneath the old oak where it had all begun. Arya wheeled herself into the small circle, a steaming bag of roasted rice by her side, a worn tennis ball rolling across damp grass, a reminder of the simple things that had sparked miracles. Beside them, a hand-painted sign leaned on a post, "Green Lake Healing. Everyone welcome. No logos, no sponsors, no barriers. Just an invitation from the heart." The first to leave Hale's tent was Evan's family. His boy on crutches nodded gratefully to Malik. A girl limped forward, supported by her mother. Then, an older man with a cane. Within minutes, half the crowd abandoned the neat rows of chairs to gather beneath the oak. Laughter rippled. Warm encouragement rose, drowning out the hollow announcements echoing from Hale's loudspeakers. "Relax, your body remembers. You're doing great. Keep going." Victor Hale stormed out of his pavilion, face flushed, strides heavy as a cornered lion. "You're breaking order and safety regulations. This is our project, legally owned." His voice roared against the wind. Daniel stood, meeting him eye to eye, his gaze sharp as a blade. "Number. We're honoring what this place has been from the beginning. This is a community, not a billboard for your foundation. You can keep the name on paper, but you'll never own the hearts of these people." Malik stepped forward, his voice ringing clear, brave as a small warrior's oath. "You can hold a name on paper, but you can't hold this place. Green Lake Healing lives here, in every person, every breath, every step we've taken together. I won't let it be turned into something cold and plastered with logos." Victor's eyes darted. Around him, families stood with Daniel and Malik under the oak, choosing laughter and freedom over his rows of chairs. He knew then, whatever the document said, Green Lake healing was no longer his. It belonged to a 9-year-old boy with patched shoes and a boundless heart. The story spread like wildfire. Within a week, a Seattle Herald reporter released a feature called "The Boy Who Kept the Park's Soul." Families spoke through tears. Cameras captured the simple circle beneath the oak, alive with determination and hope. Crowds grew, not for corporate banners, but to be part of that circle where healing was free. Quietly, the Hale Foundation packed up its gaudy pavilion, hauled away its signs, and disappeared from Green Lake like a shadow defeated. One late afternoon, sunset spilled crimson across the water. Daniel sat on a weathered bench, watching Malik and Arya practice new steps with inspiring persistence. A breeze lifted the corner of the faded blanket, revealing a patch of grass pressed flat by countless feet, footprints of those who had risen again here. "You've done what many grown men wouldn't dare, Malik," Daniel said, voice thick with pride. "You saved Green Lake with your own heart." Malik smiled softly, handing the worn tennis ball to Arya, his eyes glowing under the sunset. "I only did what my mom would have done, Uncle. She said the body always remembers, and I'll keep going, until no one here is afraid to stand again." The last light of day wrapped the circle beneath the oak. People laughed, rose, and joined together in belief. As long as hearts gathered here, Green Lake could never be taken. It would live on, a quiet miracle, carrying hope into countless lives. And the story of Malik Rivers, the boy who healed, was only beginning. The chapters ahead promised more struggle, more triumph. What would the future bring? Only time could tell. But one truth was certain: hope would always prevail. Sunset spilled crimson across Green Lake, the waves whispering like a final lullaby of the day. The echo lingered, a warm circle beneath the oak, where hope quietly spread through small movements and patience overcame every barrier. The feeling stayed, like the warmth from roasted rice still drifting in the cool air. I realized that forgiveness is the valid key to healing, not only pardoning others' mistakes, but also releasing ourselves from old wounds so that they no longer bind us. It teaches us to let go of doubt, embrace fragile trust, and find strength in the simplest things. Like the still surface of the lake hiding unseen currents, genuine kindness always finds a way through ambition. We heal because we dare to forgive. We rise because we dare to forgive. We continue to live because we dare to forgive. Isn't that the real miracle? If this story touched you, share a memory of healing from your own life. Like and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. As the sun fades over Green Lake, what do you think about the wounds you've forgiven?